Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. It is that time of the year again for the 2022-2023 season previews. I'm so excited to get into this, and we're starting off today with the New York Islanders. We're going in a completely random order, just going from completely random different teams. The Islanders are usually around the middle when we start off these season previews, so it's good to get them at the start. Unfortunately, though, we are doing them first when there's a lot of questions still. Is a Kadri deal going to happen? Now, it's more than likely going to happen because that's kind of going to be the sole theme of this season preview. We're mainly going to be talking about Nazem Kadri, and it would absolutely suck if he's not even going to New York. So I'm hoping, and it pretty much is already a given, that he is going to sign with the New York Islanders. So we more or less are going to include Kadri in the season preview. If he doesn't sign with the Islanders in the end, I'm sorry, Islanders fans. I jinxed it. But anyways, the difference between these season previews and previous season previews is we're implementing some new stuff, implementing questions for this coming season. We're implementing a sleeper or bust and point projections. The point projections and the sleeper or the bust are exclusively from the Hockey News. So we're using the Hockey News' sleeper or bust and their point projections to take a look and see if they're accurate or not. And I'm going to kind of give my thoughts as well. So anyways, starting off here, what happened with the New York Islanders this past season. So they were pretty good, but their record doesn't say it all. Their record doesn't say it all. They had a lot of issues, obviously, during the season. They started off the season on the road. Then they got to play in UBS. Didn't win for a little bit there in their new arena, but then they eventually won. Obviously, they had COVID issues where the NHL just wouldn't shut them down when half the roster, even more than half, was out for the season. And they had multiple other issues, and another issue was playing in the Metropolitan Division. It was difficult. They finished with a 37-35-10 record for 84 points out of 211 goals for and a 237 goals against. Their leading scorer was Brock Nelson with 37 goals, 22 assists for 59 points. Impressive season from Brock Nelson despite the bad season for New York. And it wasn't even all too bad. They were above 500. It was a good season. It just had some altercations in it that really set them back from the playoffs like they usually make it. Their goaltending leader was obviously Ilya Sorokin. Took a huge step up for the Islanders this season, even though they weren't the best in the world. 26, 18, and 8 with a 2.40 goals against average. So he was impressive for the New York Islanders, an underrated Vezina candidate in the Metropolitan Division. I think I had him. I don't think I had him in my Vezina choices, but he definitely was a good goalie for New York, obviously. And they also did fire Barry Trotz. Their new leader is now Brad Lambert, or it's not Brad Lambert. It's somebody with the last name Lambert. I can't think of his first name, but I know he's related to Brad Lambert. I just can't think of the new coach's name. I should have put that down here. I apologize. But their offseason was more or less kind of uneventful. When you really look at it, it wasn't all too interesting. Their acquisitions right now are Alexander Romanov, Kalo Dulius, who is, I think, a fourth-round pick this year, and then they selected him to an entry-level contract, and then Nazem Kadri as a question mark. See those acquisitions, they're very small. The Islanders did really not all too much this offseason besides re-sign some of their big players. Well, not even really big players, some of their depth players. Apart from that, they didn't do all too much. They made a trade at the draft for Romanov, but apart from that, really didn't do anything in all too much as of right now. They did have some departures, though. Zdeno Chara, Andy Green, Corey Schneider, Thomas Hickey, and Austin Zizarnik. They aren't huge departures by any means, but they still are departures, so we obviously got to cover them. Those are the departures given no depth players. There was other players who did leave, but they weren't big players who played in the NHL this year. So overall, I mean, if you're asking, are they better or worse? I mean, with Kadri, they're probably better, but I mean, we'll never know though. And when you look at the projected lineup, now I'm gonna give a warning here. I can't think of a word. I'm going to give a warning here that I forgot Kadri in my projected lineup because I wasn't looking at I wasn't thinking of Kadri. So in here, I'm going to put him in the second line. To the top six here, you have Brock Nelson, Matthew Barzal, Anthony Beauvillier, Anders Lee, Nazem Kadri, and then Kyle Palmieri on your top six. So a solid top six there. Overall, some good offense. And their bottom six really isn't all too terrible either. You look at their bottom six, Zach Parise, Oliver Wahlstrom, Josh Bailey, Matt Martin, John Gabriel Pageau. They're probably going to move somebody from that center core. Now that I realize that, I put Kadri in there. That's my mistake. Um, over, and then you have Cal Clutterbuck as well. And then for some of your depth players, you have Ross Johnson, A2 Ratty, Kiefer Bellows, Casey Zizekas, and Otto Koivula. So they are really deep down the center. I'll give them that. They are deep down the middle. I like their center depth a lot. Or obviously that Barzal, Kadri 1-2 punch. You could honestly argue Kadri up to the first line. I really wouldn't disagree with you, but I just put him on the second line, more or less. But I like that forward core. That bottom six is a little bit sketchy for me, but I obviously do like it. Obviously, my projected lineups are not entirely accurate. Obviously now, because Kadri coming in there, I got to alter some things a little bit. But with Kadri not being filed, I forgot to add him in, so that is my mistake there. Moving on to your defensive core, you have Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulak. Then you have Alex Romanoff and Noah Dobson. You have Sebastian Aho, and not the one from Carolina, and then Scott Mayfield. And then you also have Robin Salo as a player who could come into there. So, obviously, a solid defense. I like Pelech and Pulak. And Romanoff is a great addition to that top four. He'll play very well with Noah Dobson. I like that a lot. And then, obviously, the third pairing is good. Scott Mayfield and Sebastian Aho. Aho and Salo, part of one of my questions, if they're going to really play well given their ice time. Because they're going to get some ice time here. They are going to get some ice time 100% this season with the Islanders. So we'll see what they do. And then your goaltending tandem is obviously Varlamov and Sorokin. And then you have Ken Appleby as well as your third string goalie. He probably won't play out too much. We'll see some other new goalies come into the fold for the Islanders, obviously. But right now, that is your tandem. So my questions. How will Kadri impact the New York Islanders? Well, in all honesty, that is interesting there. He's obviously going to make it very deep down the middle, 100%. But we're going to see whether or not that season, that breakout year of Colorado, was actually legit, and whether or not that was just a one-off, and maybe with the Islanders, I'm not dissing the Islanders at all here. I think almost all Islanders fans will agree that Colorado definitely has a better top six than New York. With a worser top six, will Kadri be better? With line mates, obviously Brock Nelson and Nathan Beauvillier, I think he definitely will be a little bit worse, but he's not going to be absolutely terrible. He probably will be the same, and obviously he's up there in age. He's starting to get up there a little bit, so maybe on year 4 of that 7-year contract that is rumored to come, maybe he'll start declining, but who knows? Anything could really happen. And then obviously my other question was that if Robin Salo and Sebastian Aho were going to play well given their NHL time. They will get some NHL time again. I think that they're two very underrated young type defensemen who really could come into the lineup and play well. Salo has been hyped up by Islanders fans for years. And personally, I like Salo a lot, so I hope he does well. Probably playing third pairing from the start, but if he does well, he could move up in those rankings and maybe play potentially second pairing at most. I don't think he gets past Pelech. But anyways, that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they don't do well, and more or less you put a depth guy there on your lefty third pairing. So it's not horrible for the Islanders if they do bad, but still, it's interesting there. And then the other question is their playoff return. Now, the past 2 years, I have said yes to them making the playoffs. And obviously, I'm likely going to say yes again because when you look at last year, they had a decent year for all the problems that they faced during the regular season. Obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they still stayed over 500. There was only 2 games, but still, they still stayed over 500 for most parts of the season there, really. So I think that, honestly, they probably will have a bounce-back year and definitely make the playoffs. So moving on to some of the hockey news stuff that they have in their fantasy guide notebook that just came in the mail for me today. So we're going to be implementing a lot of stuff from there for all 32 teams' season previews. Obviously, there you have your point projections, so we'll just do the top 5. We're not going to go down from the entire list. So your leading point scorer, according to the hockey news, would be Matthew Barzal with 78 points. That is interesting there. Barzal below 80 points is interesting. I think he could average around maybe 81, 82. Personally, that's not all too much. That's not that much in points, but still very solid there. Obviously, the Islanders are a defensive team, so we'll see what happens there. And then they're very high on Noah Dobson there. They have him at 62 points, second in scoring with the Islanders there. And then you have Anders Lee in third with 55, Brock Nelson in fourth with 53, and then Anthony Beauvillier at fifth with 47. Obviously, Nelson is not going to be as good as he was this year. I don't think he gets those 37 goals again. I think he could probably overcome the 60 points, other than the Hockey News having him ranked at 53. I think it could be a 65 point score, but obviously we'll see there. And obviously, for the Hockey News' sleeper or bust, it's actually Noah Dobson. It looks like they're actually very high on Noah Dobson, but they're also kind of low on him. I'm not sure. The Islanders disappointed, but Noah Dobson finishing 8th in the NHL in power play points among defensemen was a bright spot. No one will challenge him for that prime role, and the Islanders are going to be ready for a bounce-back season. So, obviously there. So they're calling him a sleeper or a bust. So that is very interesting. I think Dobson could challenge that number one spot instead of Ryan Pulock on the right D side. But that is just me. I think it definitely could happen. But as of right now, we'll see. But anyways, overall, I think the Islanders probably do make the playoffs. I can't imagine they don't. They're a good team. They have still some good players. And even under their brand new coach in Lambert, I still think they'll be a very good team. Nonetheless, they still have pretty much the same roster, more or less, minus some of the guys who weren't all too good for them this season. And although you don't have any huge departures besides Kadri, you don't have any big departures either. So that's not a bad thing at all. But anyways, overall, I think the Islanders do make the playoffs this year. And they definitely do challenge. And maybe, who knows, they'll make it all the way to the conference finals again. And make me happy, as of always. People do think I don't like the Islanders because of what they did to my Flyers 2 years ago, and some of the videos that are on this channel do show that I'm not a big fan of the Islanders. They may think that I'm not, but overall, the past 2 years, I've started to really like this team a lot more. And I know Islanders fans, some of them may hate me forever, but one of my life lessons is that you can't make everyone like you. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on what you guys think the Islanders will do this season. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all very much for watching. Tomorrow will be the Arizona Coyotes season preview, so we're just getting started here anyways. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.